coming from diversity.
Okay, so welcome everybody. As you know, we are doing the theme of diversity, equity, and inclusion this month of November, and we're trying to explore the topic of diversity, equity, inclusion from various different point of views. And today our point of view is completely and absolutely corporate. So we will be listening and learning more from our panelists, Anshu, who is here, and Suchitra, who I hope will join us soon. And so before we begin, I would say that please keep posting in your questions in either the chat box or Q&A so that we can continue to pick in between. If there are any specific aspects related to DEI that you are curious or keen to know, so that we can post them to our panelists. And so let's begin our conversation. And to introduce Anshu, so Anshu is also a certified coach. And she's a part of Coacharya family. Hi, Suchitra, welcome. We've just been starting. And Anshu is currently the people manager with DNV, and she's got a good number of experience of working with other corporates, including Tata Consultancy Services. So welcome, Anshu. And speaking about Suchitra, so Suchitra is also a certified coach and has got a vast number of experience working in the field of HR with organizations like PepsiCo, Coal Technologies. And currently, I believe Suchitra is the founder and consultant with a boutique HR consultancy firm, QED HR. I was pretty curious about the name, like what it really stands for. So I hope you'll take some time to let us know about it. And to begin our conversation, my first question to both of you would be, how did you get into DEI? Like what is your connection to the space of diversity, equity, inclusion? If you can just share a little bit about that. Suchitra, let's begin from you and then we go to Anshu.
Okay, thanks for that, Komal. My journey actually started long before people were talking so much about DEI. In fact, it was DNI that time. So this was the year 2006 when I just joined Pepsi, and where there was a huge training on really understanding what it meant in terms of what should we be doing and proactively thinking about. Was it only gender? Was it age cohorts? Was it ability? All of those external features. And we started with, in fact, educating and training the entire PepsiCo population on DEI, DNI. In fact, one of our values was, very clearly stated, winning with diversity and inclusion. And we then reworked all our policy, all our recruitment practices, all the cultural aspects, pillars, to make sure this is included. So this is right in 2006, before many of you even joined the workforce. And since then, the journey has only continued and has become stronger and stronger. And we went into unconscious biases. We went into looking at different communication styles. So a lot of personality factors, any which way we started looking at it. And in fact, today, it has gone far beyond just the external factors, which was the starting point of gender or other external factors. And today, actually, it is more about the identity of a person, right? However he or she chooses to express identity. So I think, yeah, my journey started then, and very passionate. In fact, over the course of the time at Pepsi, I won 3 global awards from Indra Nooyi on the work that we did, in fact, in India. And we did it in partnership. The good part was we did it in partnership with other companies like Reckitt, PwC, Amex, all of them. We all came together because we said this is not a problem or an issue that only one company can solve. In fact, the entire cohort have to come together. So we did a lot of great work together, and that was recognized globally as one of the best practices where a company is not going alone, but really looking at the community of other companies and making a difference. So I'll talk about that a little later, what we actually did to win the award, but yeah.
Awesome. I hear a lot of passion and engagement when you speak about it, like full of energy. Okay, over to you, Anshu. Like, what's your personal story in connect with diversity equity?
Thanks, Komal, and very inspiring to hear Suchitra as well. So for me, it started in the last organization, which was more into manufacturing sector, and gender diversity was one of the focus areas there because given the manufacturing sector, we didn't have so many women, especially on the shop floor. And that's where we started with, we had a lot of global network as well as a lot of global initiatives. But how do we cascade it down? How do we make it more Indian and look at, forming chapters which are more Indian context related? So that's how it started. And, from having maybe 1 or 2 faces, who would be there on the shop floor to having a room full of women, it was quite a journey. And starting with awareness, starting with building the fact that, okay, it is possible, because it would be like, oh, it's too much of an hassle. So coming to a point where people felt that, yeah, this is something that we can do. And it continued right across, even in the current organization. It's all about looking at it from different ways. And also, I think the lens has changed. It's not just about gender anymore. For India, it may be, one of the focus areas. But I think when we look at global organizations, it changes. It changes, right from region to region. Where does the priority lie? So I think diversity is no longer just, okay, fine, one dimension and that's about it. But it's all about how do you use that lens to look at everything all together, and also the entire life cycle. And coming to the personal part where I felt that, this was something worth pursuing. It's just that for me, values like, equality, fairness, they've been very strongly kind of, drilled right from childhood. So for me, this was like, okay, this has to be there. I mean, why should there be a question? So for me, moving from one city to the other, I started in Delhi and moved to Mumbai. The fact that, the physical safety, you could sense it more once, being in Mumbai. So I felt that, this is so much there that the respect for women, discipline, all of the factors play a lot of role when it comes to forming a culture, whether it's of a place or of an organization. So I think there are multiple facets to it. And I think coming from diversity, equity, inclusion, I think inclusion is the point which needs to kind of, be taken care of, because it's very easy to get different people in. But if they're not feeling included, if they're not feeling psychologically safe to be able to share who they really are, then it doesn't really matter. So that cognitive diversity, if you're not able to take in different views, allow different views to exist, then I think the benefits of diversity, equity, inclusion do not flow. So I think it's a journey, and all of us are there, both at a personal level as well as organizational level. And I think it's a wonderful topic to explore. And I'm really glad that, now there is a lot of conversation within organizations, and you would see it reflected in social media as well. So it's an exciting time to be in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anshu. So in a way, we were going for the next question that I had, but you'd also sort of answered a little bit of why, like, why is it even important to speak about diversity, equity, inclusion, or why we are focusing and paying so much of attention to it? And if I pick up from what you explained, it's like, yes, the world is diverse, no matter which corner of the world you go these days, it is a diverse world, and let's acknowledge it. But is it also as diverse in our workspaces where we go and work, right? Or even if it is diverse, do all those different sections of society face feel that same level of safety or same opportunities to grow and develop and live a fulfilled life, right? If not, then yes, we do need to look into like what is happening, why is there exclusion, and what can be done about it. So I think that somewhere explains the reason for why. Is there anything else also in terms of a reason as to why looking into diversity, equity, inclusion within organization is important?
So let me take a stab at that. So for the business, there are two aspects. One is your customers and clients, and one is your internal employees. And really, when you are marketing any product or providing any service to your clients, you need to understand the kind of clients there are. And today's world is gone into hyper personalization, right? So every client or every consumer really wants a product or service catered to their need, catered to their identity. They don't want something that is there for everyone. Even a simple cup of coffee has got a choice which is so varied. So everybody wants that customization. And you can only do that customization if you understand your customers and clients. And you can only understand them if you are also represented through that in your own organization. You can never represent your entire customers and consumers if you don't understand them from the lens of your own organization. So you need to have a variety of views, perspective, opinions, differences inside to be able to cater to the external. And that's a clear-cut business case. In fact, there are lots of literature written about how when a business is diverse, it is much more productive, it's much more consumer-centric, it's much more profitable, its growth rate is higher than those companies that are not diverse. So the business case is very, very clear. Then you come to the internal part of it. And today, in fact, more so the Gen Z want to be seen as a whole identity. There's no more, this is my work persona and this is my home persona. No, there is one persona, right? So if there is one persona, then you need to have a culture that accepts the whole persona. There is no, okay, hide this part of yourself. You can never be a complete person, productive, share your thoughts, share your opinions, if you're not being seen or heard in one aspect of your identity. So to do that, you have to, there is no choice there. You have to create a culture that is inclusive and that brings in the maximum amount of diversity represented from outside to inside. So all kinds of barriers we need to address and close for business success externally, for business success internally.
That's amazing. Thank you. Anshu, would you like to add anything further?
Yeah, I think very well put. And I think the internal part as well. It's like with the pandemic, there are so many conversations which started. We talked about the great resignation, we talked about quiet quitting. And it's like we want people to be engaged. We want people to feel a sense of belonging. How does that happen? Diversity, equity, inclusion is one of the keys which can help you open or unlock the potential of all these people. Because when I belong, when I feel safe, that's where I can share ideas. That's when innovation can happen. So the creativity gets unleashed only then. And given the pace of, external changes, there is no way in which we can remain static. For sustainability to happen, you need to keep thinking of what's next. What's the future going to be like? And that's where people need to be able to question the status quo. So all of that can only happen when people feel that, yes, I can speak up. My voice is going to be heard. I can, share what my strengths are. I can add value and I can create an impact. So that's where the individuals start thriving. And that's where the organization can create business results for themselves. So I think this is just something which is required. It's no longer a question of, oh, is there a business case or not? It's just about realizing that there's enough research. If a company like Google has done the research, which has proven that, this is something which is required, and that's how they flourish. So it's just about looking at it, that it does take time for you to be able to see it. But yes, it is something that you need to start off with. It is something that you need to bring about if it's not already there.
So, yeah, so I think I agree with both your points that, of course, there is that direct benefit of aligning with the people who you really cater to through your services or products. And then there is this internal aspect of engaging and having more motivated people. And I absolutely love that social aspect of it, like how the new generations are evolving, where we are no longer the people who say that, okay, I will work in this industry because I get money and then I will find my happiness or other things elsewhere. No, no. Unless and until the work is fulfilling, the work is where we can belong or where we can find connection, we cannot bring ourselves to work like some of the previous generations could really do that. Like you can live your life in those boxes, like, okay, this is my work and that's all, and rest of the life. For us, those sort of boxes do not exist anymore. So that's wonderful. And we have our attendees also sort of agreeing and responding to some of the points that you have put in. Next question, another logical question would be: you both have said that the work of diversity, equity, inclusion began from the gender conversations or things like that, but now it's sort of expanded. It's as diverse as the the world is. So where do you see the scopes are defined? Like, how do we make sense of like what is happening in the diversity, equity, inclusion space? What are the key things we are speaking about? What are the, how do we make meaning is at both the Indian and the global levels? Like, what sort of voices do you think we need to address at all of these levels?
I think Anshu put up a very good point that your external representation of your world and society has to be your internal representation, right? So if you are in, in the US, where your external representation is a variety of ethnicity and race, and of course gender and multi-generational cohorts, then your internal representation has to be very similar, because you're catering to exactly that as your consumer and customer base. So you cannot say, oh, I'm not going to cater to XYZ. And the decision makers have to represent from all these cohorts. And, one of the points that the person has made, Jennifer has made around that, yes, it looks like tokenism at points. You just have a person, a figurehead saying, oh, so and so is this race and therefore represents somebody from outside, and now this person of this race has to start talking to the entire external population. Now that's really not fair for the person or for the community that the person is representing, because finally the person is there representing their selves. And what you need to create is a culture where the person can be heard and many more voices can be heard, not only that person. So it is not inclusion, exclusion, so that you can have check boxes. It is truly creating that environment where every person, and that person may be a mainstream representative, can be heard and allowed to be heard, allowed to be who they are. So it's not your idea of the community that the person represents, but it is who the person is. So you cannot put them in the tight boxes. Oh, now I've got, for example, when we started work, I was supposed to be representing women. So now there was a huge pressure on me. My God, women. And every time I spoke, it would be, oh, women want this now. Oh, women want that now. And it was not, I was like, maybe they want, maybe they don't. Don't put so much pressure on me to be the voice of every woman out there. That's not fair. I can only say about what are my needs and what are my views and what are my opinions. And therefore, it's a fine balance for the organization. And therefore, the organization, instead of looking at each cohort and saying, okay, now you represent this cohort, it's about creating the culture for voices, for biases to be removed, for voices to be heard. That's the aim of creating the right inclusive culture. And equity is just making sure that the policies are not put so tightly that they cannot apply to everyone, to anyone, right? So, for example, I always love this quote that, airlines used to have this policy, or maybe still have, that the air hostess will not help the passenger put their luggage on the whatever, the bin or wherever. Now that's fine for 90% of the population, but I can never reach the height. So now if the air hostess says, no, I'm not going to help you, that's equality, fine. But is it equity? No, because finally I'm the consumer. So I'm not saying that you need to represent me in you, but you need to have policies that help me be myself as a passenger. So equity is about customizing and enabling people to be the right person for that passenger or the consumer. Whereas equality says, I don't care. The stairs are there for everyone. Everybody has to climb the stairs. See, I'm being so equal and so fair. No, you're not being equal and fair, because some people cannot climb the stairs. So even today, let's say you have a 3-day work and you say, okay, it's equal. So everybody does 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But hey, my school has just declared that my kid has to stay home on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So how are you being equal and fair for me? So the companies have to now really start thinking of customization, having policies that are flexible, menu-based, allowing people to take what they want. So that's equity. And inclusion is about getting all the voices heard in the right way.
Right. This reminds me how when McDonald's came to India, they had to create a whole new menu, including a lot of vegetables and aloo patties and things like that, hearing the voice of their consumers, right? So that was sort of inclusion. Okay, Anshu, what do you have to say about the scope of diversity, equity, inclusion in both India and global spaces?
I would think that, it's just that what becomes important is what you're missing. When you feel the pinch of it, I think that's what becomes like the burning issue. So it could be gender, say, for instance, here in India, maybe, or it could be a little bit of casteism, or maybe, the North-South thing. But I think globally, if it's Americas, it would be more around the race, maybe. For other places, it could be more around LGBTQ community. So it's just about where is it that people are sensing, they're feeling that, oh, this is missing, or I'm feeling left out. And I think what's important for organizations, and I think organization is all about the people, it's about understanding the lived stories of people. So it's very good to say, oh, fine, this part of the community needs this, but are you able to go back in time and understand what have they faced? So for me, if I am a woman, maybe I can identify with the issues that women face, maybe, as they progress, maybe at the time of their marriage, at the time when they have childbirth, at the time when they need to be supporting the family, having children, having maybe elders to take care of. For someone else who's faced, maybe due to the color of the skin, faced maybe discrimination, for them, that's the live issue. So I think it's all about sensing, understanding what has been their story. How have they journeyed from where they were to maybe being in that corporate space? You can say that, oh, now everyone is equal, we are ensuring that, the same thing, taking the point from Suchitra that, we are giving you exactly the equal things. But no, they have faced certain things to even reach this platform. And it's just that those things don't go away. The unconscious bias at the time of decision making, at the time of promotions, at the time of performance appraisals, at the time when there is a new role coming up, are these people facing that unconscious bias that even the people who are deciding, maybe could be the hiring manager, could be the manager they're reporting into, they're not even aware maybe, but those are playing against them. So then in that case, you need to maybe make it something which is, that awareness needs to come. So I think reading more and more about the shared experiences that, okay, this is how I have faced, or understanding their life story, that's how you develop that empathy. And that's where the organization can create those spaces where they feel that, yeah, I can share more. So it's not the onus that you have to share, but yes, they can share and also ask for what can help them. How can it become a level playing field for everyone? How can they also become, okay, fine, yes, the same opportunities are coming to me. And at times it does need maybe that little bit of extra to kind of make it more, so to say, okay, now the equity is there. It's not just about equality and, giving the same thing, but yes, you're building into equity as well. So I think that's the thing that, that's the movement that needs to happen in organizations.
Yeah. And in what you've shared, it also occurs to me that when we are operating in the diversity, equity, inclusion state, and we're working, there would be issues from the past or historical issues that are going to surface up, and they would need to be addressed. And sometimes people may have this view is like, how long in past we have to go, right? It's like it's a retribution of a kind where you have to sort of make good about some past experiences or histories, and these may not necessarily be individual but more structural issues that we're talking about. And so I like this question that Jennifer has said, and I want to take it up next, is like, so how are people heard? How do folks know they've been heard, and heard by whom? So taking a cue from this question, I would say, having been working in this space and having seen the need of it and all of that, what would look like a ideal state for you, if there could be any ideal state? Like, where do you think the organizations can reach? What is the potential of diversity, equity, inclusion?
Right, and I think here it's an interesting question, and I think one doesn't really need to go to the past. One needs to be future looking, forward looking, and build from wherever you are. Different organizations are at different stages, different countries, different context of that culture, etc. at different stages. So there's not much. While you understand history, there's not much trying to go back, especially as a business level, right? At business level, you need to go look forward. And coming to the question is, how are you going to get people to hear, and how do you create that culture and future culture? I think it is unfortunately still a lot of what Anshu was talking about is a lot of training and building awareness. Even self-awareness. And Komal, I've talked to you about this before, that we at times, and every person represents some part of the community. We're not as compassionate to ourselves as we need to be, right? So as a woman, I will think, at least I used to think, oh, I can't act like this because then that means I will want preference treatment for myself. Similarly, somebody else would be thinking, oh, if I ask for this, that means I'm going to be given a favor because I have a young kid to go home to. Somebody else will think, oh, I have an older parent I want to go home to. So everybody, unfortunately, before the world judges us, we judge ourselves. And therefore, even we need to understand what are the biases that are inherent within us. And we have to look at the judge that sits constantly on our shoulder, telling us what we should have done, we should not be doing, we should be acting, etc., and bring the compassion to ourselves. The minute we view the world, each other, with the humanity that is so important in today's world, just basic humanity for ourselves, we start viewing others with that basic humanity and that basic compassion. So it is important for us to constantly become aware of the biases that we hold for ourselves and for others. And that happens through discussions, through coaching, through workshops, in safe spaces. So conversations in safe spaces to really understand what we may be not even aware of because of our cultural context, because how our parents have brought us up, of all the factors that make us who we are. But the first step is to accept, yes, all of us have some inherent bias. And then to say, okay, I have to first look at compassion for myself and others who are with me.
I love that basic humanity thing. It's like, seems like a no-brainer, yes, of course, but could be so challenging to stay in that basic human state at times. Anshu, what would you like to add to that?
I think the point I would like to maybe just highlight the point of safe space, because I think organizations do have forums. For instance, you'll have maybe an employee engagement survey that you're already running. You know, organizations which are moving towards DEI, they would have maybe an inclusion survey as well added on top of that. And then they would have maybe connect sessions, they would have town halls, they would have maybe those individuals who are part of the DEI committee or the, the people group. So there would be those people who would be there maybe to listen to. But if it's not a safe space, whatever is being shared, firstly, people will not be authentic in their sharing. They would feel that, oh, okay, if I'm going to say this, is it going to come back to me? Or is there going to be a question that, okay, did you say such and such thing? Or would I be, kind of maybe in some way punished for it? So it's just that if we are providing that safe space that, yes, you can share your concerns, you can raise your voice if you feel that you require certain support, then that's something which is going to be valued. Or if you're putting forward a concern, raising something, which is away from the status quo, you will not be punished for it. I think this is what is the critical piece there, which differentiates whether someone feels hurt or they regret the fact that they said something. Because if tomorrow I'm going to feel that, oh, I raised this question, I challenged someone, maybe higher up, maybe at a better power status, having more privilege, and then it came to me that, oh, why did you do such and such? Then for the next time, I know I don't have to raise my voice. Next time, I would not reach out. I would much rather, okay, fine, let me solve what I can do, or ultimately find some other role across the organization, or maybe move out if I find another role in another organization. So I think it all bottles down to the fact that how do we use some of the existing things? And then again, looking at the DEI lens for all of the policies which are there. So whether you're doing the recruitment, whether you are doing your performance management, whether it's the exit process, is everything being looked at from a perspective of diversity, equity, inclusion? Or is there a bias coming in? Is there, left to one person? So if that one person is biased, then the decision is definitely biased. So I think those are some of the things ongoing awareness and training can fix as well. So I would agree with Suchitra there. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one is definitely tone from the top. When I consult with companies and the leader says, oh, we must build a better culture, this, that, we must bring in more diversity. And they love this, we must bring in more diversity. So my question to the leader is always, what are you doing about it? What is the tone that you set? How do you treat people different from you? So similarly, if a person disagrees with you, what's the first thing that you do? Are you the first person who speaks or the last person who speaks in the meeting? What kind of a leader are you? Because all of those behaviors set the tone for the rest of the organization. If the leader is a person who will speak the first, has a clear point of view, who he has to declare before anyone else says anything, he's killed diversity and inclusion. I mean, he might get all the people representing the entire community from outside, but the voice he will hear or she will hear is a voice of herself or himself, not of any other voice. So there's no inclusion, but there may be a lot of diversity.
Yeah, right. And I'm also having an eye on the chat box where there are some really interesting and important points which are put. And what's coming out of those points and this conversation is that there is a dire need to sort of frame shift or look at the alternate meanings of a whole lot of things that we've grown up with, like what is considered to be a leadership, a good leadership. because we see that this is shifting quite a lot. So at one point of time, maybe leader was the largest voice across the room, right? So that everybody can, so you are like a leader. But now a leader could also be somebody who's like the quietest voice, but a strong presence, which is helping other voices to emerge from the place, right? So it's a complete role shift or a frame shift, or what gets viewed. Like if being vulnerable was a mark of weakness at one point of time, being vulnerable actually is quite a lot courageous as well. So what I'm observing happening quite a lot and is required more and more is to not be in that judgment space, but be open to explore, like, could there be a different meaning to life or the way we are living, or to the things that we consider important, and how that sort of changes us and the culture around us. Which makes me curious to know, what do you observe as the challenges in the way of DEI, or the pitfalls, if you can speak a little bit about them?
I think what we covered are still the pitfalls. One are unconscious biases. Unconscious biases in itself implies that person's not aware of it, right? The other one, Jennifer brought it up, are tick in the boxes. So I have a quota, and a quota is what I want to fill. So, oh, you want me to have 20% representation of X group? I'm going to, and everybody focuses on that. So the minute you declare a number, people focus on that without saying, like I said, you bring the diversity, but if you don't have the inclusion, then the point of diversity is not much there, right? Then the leader, So if the pitfalls are exactly what we've all been discussing, and then to suppress that voice of diversity by making them, not allowing them to speak, or not creating those safe spaces. Exactly what Anshu said, you bring it back to that person, but you said this and you are representing your community. Sorry, don't put that kind of pressure or a frame where the person is now standing for X voice. So all these are the pitfalls that companies love metrics. So they usually say, oh, we have achieved our diversity quota. Really? That's all I can say, because like we started the conversation, diversity today goes much beyond external characteristics. It goes much beyond that. So it's a way of living, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of approaching a problem. It encompasses identity, truly.
I can maybe add to it a little bit, which is, the fact that if I'm part of the majority, then I don't really see a problem. Because, for me, it's like, oh, I have everyone around who's looking like me. Maybe that's also good enough. So if the leadership team, if you find that they're all like looking like alike, at times it's easy to kind of say that, okay, yeah, it is something that we should do. There is this good to do thing, but yeah, it'll take us time, or maybe, it is something that we should be, starting off with. So I think it is a little harder in those cases. And the fact that, if I am a leader and everybody agrees to me, I'm like, wow, this decision making is so simple. I just put forward a point and everyone agreed to it. It does take time. I think it is challenging to be able to allow people to voice different opinions, to maybe deliberate, to even fight over it, but then come to a conclusion. So I think it does require that extra bit of going and, deliberating, maybe spending extra time. But in the long run, it is beneficial. But if you just look at the short run, it's uncomfortable. It's not something, and you wonder whether it's really worth doing. If I'm the leader and, everyone is agreeing, it's such a cakewalk. You just decide, you just move forward. But is this the best decision? So those are some of the questions, I think, which people would, need to kind of ask themselves. And you're right, there is a change which is already coming from a thing where it was, work long hours, reach maybe even burnout. It is coming to the fact that the leadership has to be different. It has to care for people. It has to be talking about, okay, what can I do for you? How can I support you? Not just about, okay, fine, this is what you need to do, get it done with. So I think there is now a turn coming towards the fact that there is different styles of leadership which are required. It will not be okay to kind of, just have maybe a dictatorial style and, saying that, okay, this is something which is going to work. So times are changing, and then leadership has to change alongside that. So I think that is something which we have to acknowledge. And I think most leaders are seeing that happening. So that's something which is requiring change from their side as well.
Wonderful. And so that brings me, being a coach, of course, to like, okay, so where do you see coaches or coaching can play a role in this space? Or do you still see that diversity, equity, inclusion is a subject where you still need more of advocacy and more of knowledge building before, coaching interventions can really be working wonders in the field? Like, what's your experience? Like, where do you see what is more required in this space?
I don't think there is a one size fits or a one solution for the whole thing. It's a 360 degrees. It's a problem that I'm glad we are on this journey, because that means we are recognizing the fact that we need to bring in more inclusivity. We need to bring in more voices. We need to hear them. We need to customize our policy. So it's a great journey that we have embarked on, right? So I don't want to use the word problem, but it is a journey that we started, and I think it's a great journey. And therefore, it is the toolkit is not just one hammer. It's not like, oh, now we have to just use this tool and all the problems will solve. And therefore, in the toolkit of training, of advocacy, of understanding, coaching is an extremely important role to play. And where does that come in? Comes in both at the self. If I don't even know, if I'm not even compassionate with myself, how can I be compassionate with others, right? So it starts with coaching the person, manager, coaching the person, the leader, the employee on a one-on-one, right? Really understanding where their own self-awareness is. That's one aspect. Then coaching the leaders. Where are their biases? And usually leaders, the more senior they get, the more close they are in workshops. They don't open up because they're also very vulnerable. They don't want to be seen in a certain way. So they usually keep quiet. So it's important for them to have a safe space where they can really talk about what is in their mind, and talk about their own biases, and talk about their own self-awareness, and really get to understand their own decision-making methodologies. And therefore, that journey is a private journey. And coaching is the only way that they can be in that safe space where coaches can really give them that opportunity and self-reflection, show them their North Compass to help them understand their own selves, I think. So coaching is both team coaching, group coaching, individual coaching, all kinds play a very important part.
Anshu,
Yeah.
what would you say?
I would say that, yes, you're right. And I would say that coaching is like one of the tools for creating change. And in this case, when we talk of DEI, it is all about how do we look at which are the pockets that we need to change. And yes, it has to be internally driven. Otherwise, it just becomes like, okay, fine, the HR told me I have to do this and I will do it. And I will do it just this one time because someone is watching, and not when, it's like the next time or the next time. So if we want long-lasting change to happen and happen at every instance, not just one decision, but each and every decision which happens throughout the employee's journey. So I think coaching is something which can help create that long-lasting change. And I think there are certain aspects of coaching which tie in very beautifully here, like the unconditional positive regard. When we say that, there are certain qualities or certain biases that, we have certain thoughts about, when you say that I want to have an unconditional positive regard for someone, in a way, you're dropping the judgments. And that's what is required when we say that, okay, I want to be inclusive. If you are inclusive for 2 people within your team and they become, your in-group, what about the others? Do you have certain preconceived notions there? Do you need to drop those? And then being present for everyone. So these are some things through the coaching journey which you learn. If you are training people to be coaches, and I would say that one of the ways of transitioning is if all of those managers were, for instance, coaches, they would then know how to make everyone feel that, yes, you are important, you are included. And then if we want a long-lasting culture change, then those coaches can then go ahead and talk to everyone in a way that it's not just about inclusion coming from the line manager, but it's also about each of the team member making everyone else feel included in whatever they're doing. It could be as simple as sharing lunch, during their break. So I think it's just about coaching could be that simple tool which could, act as a catalyst for a long-term change.
Lovely. I love that. And I also love what Jennifer is sharing. Like, compassion happens when you know the person. It's harder to brush off concerns when the person is real to you, I think. That's so true. And that's such a beautiful idea, Jennifer, because whenever people are like people for us and we've experienced them, they're not numbers to us. They are really people, right? And it brings me to remember of some story that I heard from somewhere about World War II, when there was a decision that was to be reached in US, like which of the places in Japan are going to be bombed after the Pearl Harbor attack happened. So instead of Nagasaki, I think they chose Kyoto, but Kyoto wasn't bombed. Nagasaki was chosen to be bombed, and the reason why is because somebody very senior in US force went for his honeymoon to Kyoto. So that person has visited the city and the place, and he had like such good fond memories of the place. So it was really hard, and he said, no, we're not going to bomb Kyoto. So, being aware of what would be the repercussion of your decision and choice, you would say this. So if we know that people and humans and spend a little more time to get to know them more than just their names, like who this person is and what do they really stand for, and connect with them through our experiences, I think that invokes that basic humanity in us. And then we take it a step further. If we would have taken it a step further with our awareness, maybe none of the cities would have been bombed, but what has happened. So yeah, lovely. Suchitra, thank you for sharing. Do share your LinkedIn IDs here, because the attendees are asking for it. They want to connect with both of you. So if you want, you can share your LinkedIn profile so that people can really connect with both of you. It's an interesting conversation. I wish it never ends, but we've got a few minutes left in our conversation. So how would you like to wrap it up? Like, what would you like us to leave with when we speak of DEI?
I think for me, like I started, it's a journey, and it's a journey of inner work more than anything else, because the more you understand your own self, the more you build compassion as a tool in your own toolbox, the more you can have compassion towards others and appreciate the differences. Very often, I imagine a field or the world full of just one kind of an animal, or one kind of a tree, or one kind of a fruit. How boring would that be? Imagine just eating like an apple every day or other fruits. We can't even imagine it. And yet, when we want people to be with us, we want exactly replicas of ourselves. And yet we really don't want that, because we are very judgmental towards ourselves. So imagine if there were 10 other Suchitras, probably I would have got super irritated with her and asked her to shut up. So the fact is that we have to not only, there's a journey from acceptance to appreciating. And I think that's the journey we need to start taking. Really appreciating the differences that people bring to the table, the different opinions, the different perspective, and rejoice in that, in the space that we have, which is made by so many different kind of people, and really feel blessed. I mean, for me, it's the end of the day, but really feel blessed that we have been given this opportunity to meet, to find friends amongst so many different kinds of people, and really feel appreciative of that.
Amazing. Thank you. You sort of reminded me the 4 A's of like human growth and development, which I feel like one is acknowledgement, then is acceptance, then is appreciation, and then comes the allowance. So if we could reach ourselves to the level of appreciation, that allowance sort of automatically fills in. Like we learn the true appreciation of everybody else and true appreciation of the differences that we hold and the people who we are. I think we tend to become more allowing for us and for the rest of the people. So very well said. I take away that point that the journey in the space of DEI is to reach the level of appreciation for everybody. Anshu, what are
Sure.
your closing remarks?
Taking a cue from the appreciation, I'll share a personal experience, which is, working with one of the managers who's been like truly appreciative, acknowledging strengths, saying that you're adding value. And with that, providing complete psychological safety. That's where I felt that, if I could experience it, and it makes such a lot of difference, it makes a difference to your performance, the way you meet people, the way you show up at work. I felt that this is something which should happen for everyone. Imagine the kind of performance change for each and every person in the organization. Imagine where the organization could reach if everyone felt that, they're bringing everything they can to work. And also it, reminds me of that concept of Johari window, where you're open enough to be, sharing a little bit more about yourself. Because, otherwise we bring to work a small part and we don't want to share beyond that. But when you share openly, you share your personal stories, you share who you really are, that's where the transformation can happen. That's where people really connect with each other. That's where, you have a best friend at work. It's like that change, which is like, okay, this is just work for me, what we started with, and this is something which is part of my life. And everything starts integrating then. So I think we all are moving into a phase where work-life integration is something which has to flow beautifully. And I think DEI is something which kind of, highlights that, kind of brings it to life. So I think this is something that everyone needs to experience to be able to realize the true value. Yes, there is data, but when you experience it personally, that's where you realize that, oh, wow, this is magical. So my invitation to everyone is that let's start sharing, because when we start sharing, we give others permission to open up as well. So whether you are a manager, whether you are a team member, in whatever relations we are, bringing or maybe that openness or that safety for everyone around us, I think that's a great starting point for everyone within homes, within corporate spaces. So that's my invite for everyone.
That's
Well
wonderful.
said, Anshu. I think that is so important. So well said. Thank you for that. Really.
And it's so real and so true. I remember in one of the team meetings that I was a part of, one of the clients said, and it was a comment, they said that, in our organization, we are excellent in sharing information, but we just don't know how to talk to each other. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a big acknowledgement of the fact, like, what is missing, that when we are talking and when we are speaking, what is it that is the content of, and how, at what level are we really connecting with each other? Like, yeah, we're just sharing information, but it's devoid of the human connection and the contact. And I personally feel very strongly that you do not need to spare time to have those intimate conversations. We can rather bring that level of authenticity and intimacy into our everyday mundane conversations. We share information along with getting to know each other a little bit more and a little bit better. It doesn't need to be something separate. I think we just need to start bringing in the art of conversation and just getting to bring the basic humanity in our conversation, I would say.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suchitra and Anshu, and everybody who stayed with us so far and have continued to share your ideas. This is one conversation which I feel like shouldn't end ever. We should keep talking. But we all have to go back to our respective fields. So thank you so much for making it wonderful for today, for me and for everybody else.
Thanks to you, Komal, for taking us through this. And thanks, Suchitra. It's been great being with you today. And thanks to all our participants as well.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Anshu. Thanks, Komal. And thank you, everyone. Keep in touch. Our LinkedIn profile, well, Anshu Bhargav, Suchitra Rajendra. I'm sure if you Google it through LinkedIn, you hunt for it, you'll get us. So we are not very difficult to find, both of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have good night, good days, and keep the compassion alive. Till we meet next week. Bye.
Bye. Bye.